smoke covered the mountainside. Fire crawled through the canopy like a living thing, consuming everything in its path. She looked at him, her voice thick with ash and pain. "I can't walk. You need to leave. Now." The man standing in front of her wasn't a professional firefighter, not a hero, just a single father, a weekend volunteer who'd climbed up here on instinct. Behind them, the forest burned. Ahead, no safe path remained. The window was closing. He crouched down, wrapped his arm around her back, and made a decision. No report would ever record a decision that would pull everything else after it. A decision that had nothing to do with training or protocol, just a choice. Ethan Cross stood in the parking lot of Highland County Search and Rescue, phone pressed to his ear. "Yeah, buddy. I'll be there for pickup. 4:30. Don't forget your backpack." Noah's voice came through, small and certain. "I won't. Love you. Love you too, Dad." Ethan ended the call and slipped the phone into his vest pocket. 6 years old, and Noah already had a better handle on his routine than most adults. That's what happened when it was just the two of them. The radio on his belt crackled. "Cross? You still on site?" He pressed the button. "Yeah." "What's up?" Fire alert just came through. Richfall sector, northwest quadrant. They're pulling resources. Ethan looked toward the tree line. The sky had that hazy quality it got this time of year. He'd done enough shifts to know when something felt wrong. "Anyone still out there?" A pause. "Not supposed to be. Trail's been marked closed since yesterday." Ethan didn't respond right away. He'd learned not to trust, not supposed to be. "I'm going to check the upper lot," he said. "Cross, they're calling everyone back. 10 minutes. He didn't wait for approval, just grabbed his pack and started toward the truck. Ethan wasn't the type to stand out. Average height, lean build from hiking more than gym time. Dark hair showing gray at the temples, the kind of face people forgot unless they needed something. He'd been doing volunteer search and rescue for 3 years. Weekends, mostly, whenever his sister could watch Noah. It started as a way to clear his head after the divorce. A way to be useful. The upper parking area was empty except for one vehicle, a silver sedan with rental plates. Ethan stopped the truck and got out. The sedan's windows were up, doors locked. A park map sat on the passenger seat. He walked the perimeter, checking for notes, for anything that might indicate when they'd be back. Nothing. 3 trails branched from this lot. The main route looped back within 2 miles. The summit trail went steep but stayed clear. The third option was older, barely maintained. It led to an abandoned fire lookout tower. Nobody went that way anymore. Ethan looked at the tree line, then back at the car. His radio buzzed again. "Cross, update, got a rental in the upper lot." 1 vehicle. No sign of the driver. Static then. Could be day hikers. Could have gotten a ride. Could be, but his gut said otherwise. "I'm checking the old tower trail. Ethan." He switched the radio to low volume and started walking. The trail was overgrown. Branches hung low, roots broke through the packed dirt. Ethan moved quickly but carefully, eyes scanning for footprints. Disturbed brush, anything fresh. 100 yards in, he found it. A broken branch at chest height, bark scraped. Someone had pushed through here recently. He kept moving. The air was getting warmer. Not clean warmth of sunlight, but dense, acrid heat that came before smoke. His radio chattered in bursts, voices overlapping, coordinates being called. The fire was spreading faster than expected. Ethan checked his watch. 3:47 p.m. He had 40 minutes before he needed to be back for Noah. He climbed faster. The trail steepened. His breath came harder. Smoke began to filter through the canopy, thin at first, then thickening. He pulled a bandana from his pack and tied it over his mouth. At the ridgeline, the path forked. One direction led toward the tower. The other dropped into a ravine. Ethan stopped. On the ground, near the fork, was a backpack. Not a standard day pack. This was technical gear survey equipment, GPS unit strapped to the outside, a case with measurement tools. Professional. He grabbed the pack and kept moving toward the tower. The structure came into view through the haze. Wood frame, metal stairs zigzagging up to a platform 40 feet above ground. Half the stairs were missing. At the base of the tower, on a cracked concrete pad, sat a woman. Her left leg was extended in front of her, bent at an angle that made Ethan's stomach tighten. She wasn't crying, wasn't shouting, just sitting there, back against the concrete, hands gripping her knee. She looked up as he approached. "Turn around," she said. Her voice was steady. No panic, just clear instruction. Ethan stopped 10 feet away. "Can you walk?" "What happened?" Stairs collapsed, fell about 12 feet. Tibias fractured. Maybe fibula too. She gestured toward the forest behind him. "Fire's coming. You need to leave." Ethan set the pack down and moved closer. "How long have you been here?" 2 hours. Maybe more. She watched him kneel beside her. "I called for help. Phone died." "I heard the alerts." He examined her leg without touching it. The angle confirmed fracture. Swelling had already started. She'd taken off her boot and propped the foot on a folded jacket. "I'm Laura," she said. Ethan, you have maybe 10 minutes before smoke makes this climb impossible. You can't carry me." He glanced up at her face. Mid-30s, blonde hair pulled back, dirt smeared across her cheek. Her eyes were clear. She'd already done the math. "What were you doing up here?" he asked. "Land survey. There's a development proposal for the valley. I was checking boundary markers." She coughed, covered her mouth. Someone moved them. "I found discrepancies. I was documenting it when she gestured toward the tower." Ethan pulled his radio. "Base, this is Cross. I have an injured hiker at the old lookout tower. Female, early 30s, fractured leg. I'm bringing her down." Static, then a voice. "Cross, fires jumped the ridge. That area's not accessible. Copy." He clipped the radio back and looked at Laura. "I'm going to lift you. It's going to hurt. You can't." "I can." "Hold still." Laura Bennett had always been good at assessing risk. It was part of the job. You measured terrain, calculated grades, factored in variables. You didn't guess. You didn't assume. And right now, every calculation told her the same thing. This man couldn't carry her down a mountain. She'd been doing the math for the past 2 hours. Weight ratio, distance, grade, energy expenditure. The numbers didn't work. They never worked. When she'd first heard footsteps approaching, she'd felt a surge of hope so intense it physically hurt. Then, reality set in. Whoever was coming would call for help. A helicopter. A proper rescue team with equipment. But the smoke had gotten thicker. The radio chatter she'd picked up on her emergency band suggested the fire was moving faster than anyone expected. There wouldn't be time for a proper rescue. "Listen to me," she said as the man knelt beside her. "I'm 5 to 8, 140. You're what, 170? You've already climbed up here. The path is steep. Smoke's going to cut visibility. You'll be carrying dead weight." Ethan was checking her leg again, his hands careful, methodical. "Medical training," she guessed, "or at least first aid certification. You done? I'm serious. So am I." He stood up, took off his vest, and set it aside. Underneath he wore a faded gray t-shirt, damp with sweat. His arms were lean but corded with muscle. "Outdoor work, not gym work. I need you to put your arms around my neck. Lock your hands. Don't let go." Laura looked at his face more carefully. Lines around his eyes, stubble on his jaw, a small scar above his left eyebrow. This wasn't someone who made impulsive decisions. This was someone who'd already thought it through and committed. "This is insane," she said. "Probably." He crouched in front of her. Laura stared at him. His face was calm, not stubborn, not heroic, just matter of fact. like he'd already moved past the debate and was working through logistics. She'd seen that look before, in engineers who'd decided on a solution and weren't interested in alternatives, in project managers who'd committed to a timeline and would make it work through sheer determination. It was the look of someone who'd already accepted the cost and was willing to pay it. If you drop me, I won't. 2 words. No elaboration. No promises he couldn't keep. Just a statement of fact. Laura took a breath, made her choice. She reached up and wrapped her arms around his neck, locking her fingers together. He slid one arm under her knees, the other behind her back, and lifted in one smooth motion. Pain shot up her leg like lightning. White hot, blinding. She bit down on a sound, squeezed her eyes shut. "Breathe," Ethan said. His voice was close to her ear, steady. Breathe through it. She did, slow, controlled. In through her nose, out through her mouth. The pain didn't fade, but it became manageable, became something she could coexist with. When she opened her eyes, they were moving. The ground shifted beneath them. She could feel each step Ethan took, the way his body adjusted to the terrain, compensating for her weight. His breathing was already coming harder. This wasn't going to work. It couldn't work, but they were moving downhill, and she was still alive. Ethan had carried plenty of loads before. Gear, equipment. A 6-year-old who'd fallen asleep watching a movie, but a full-grown adult down a mountain while smoke poured through the trees, that was different. He focused on the immediate. One step, then another. The path descended sharply. Loose rocks shifted under his boots. He adjusted his grip, kept Laura's injured leg as stable as possible. She didn't speak. That helped. She wasn't panicking, wasn't asking questions, just held on, her breath warm against his neck. Smoke thickened. Visibility dropped to 15 feet. Ethan relied on memory now. The shape of the trail, the feel of the ground. His shoulders burned. His thighs shook. He didn't stop. "You have a family?" Laura asked, voice quiet. "Son. Noah. He's 6. He's waiting for you." "He is. So why?" "Not talking about it." He shifted her weight slightly, kept moving. "Save your breath." She went quiet again. The radio crackled. "Cross, what's your position?" Ethan couldn't reach it. Hands full. He kept walking. "Cross, respond." "He's with me," Laura called out, voice strained, descending the tower trail. "ETA, 20 minutes. A different voice came through. "That trail's cut off." Fire jumped the access road. Laura's grip tightened. "Find another route," he said. "No alternate routes. You need to shelter in place." "Not an option." He kept descending. The smoke was darker now, tinged with orange. Heat pressed against his face. Somewhere to the right, he heard burning timber snap and roar. His foot slipped. He caught himself, slammed his shoulder into a tree trunk to stabilize. Laura gasped. "Still here," he said. "I know." They kept going. Ethan's vision narrowed. Not from smoke, from exhaustion. His body was shutting down non-essential processes, funneling everything into movement. Left foot, right foot. Breathe. Adjust grip. Keep going. Laura had gone completely silent. He couldn't tell if she'd passed out or was just conserving energy. Her arms stayed locked around his neck. That was enough. The trail leveled out briefly. Ethan used the reprieve to reset his stance, roll his shoulders. Pain radiated from his lower back, sharp and insistent. His thighs felt like they were filled with concrete. Each step required conscious thought, deliberate effort. The automatic rhythm he'd found earlier was gone. Now, it was just willpower. "How much further?" Laura asked. "Half mile. Maybe less. Can you make it?" "Have to." The words came out shorter than he intended. He was rationing breath now. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Filter the smoke. Keep oxygen moving. His training had covered this, how to move through compromised environments. But training didn't account for carrying another person. Training didn't account for the way his shoulders felt like they were separating from his body. Smoke swirled around them now, thick enough that Ethan could barely see the ground. He moved by feel, trusting his feet to find the path. Roots, rocks, loose gravel that shifted underfoot. He catalogued each sensation, used it to navigate. A sound rose behind them, a deep, rushing roar. The fire had reached the ridgeline. It would race downhill now, following the same route they were taking. "Ethan, I hear it." He pushed faster. His legs screamed. His lungs burned. Sweat poured down his face, mixed with ash. The bandana over his mouth was soaked. He tasted smoke with every breath, felt it coating his throat, settling in his chest. Laura coughed, a harsh, racking sound. "Put me down. You're going to collapse." Not yet. He meant it. His body was a machine now, operating past reasonable limits. He'd entered that state. Athletes talked about pain still registered, but it was distant. Informational rather than deterrent. His muscles would fail eventually. But not yet. Not while forward motion was still possible. His foot caught on a root. He stumbled, nearly went down, caught himself on pure instinct. His shoulder slammed into a tree trunk. Laura cried out as her leg jarred against his side. "Sorry," he managed. "Just go." He went. The heat intensified. Not just warm air anymore, actual radiant heat, like standing too close to a bonfire. Ethan could hear individual trees igniting, the whoomph of flames consuming dry timber. His radio crackled again, barely audible over the roar. "Anyone on Tower Trail?" "Respond." He couldn't respond. Couldn't spare the breath or the hand to grab the radio. He just kept moving, feet finding purchase on instinct. Body tilted forward to balance Laura's weight. Then the ground dropped away. Not far, maybe 3 feet, but enough that his leading foot found nothing, and momentum carried him forward. He twisted mid-air, took the impact on his hip and shoulder, managed to keep Laura's leg clear of the ground. They lay there for 2 seconds. 3. "Get up," Laura said. Her voice was quiet but firm. "Ethan." "Get up." He did. Slower this time, every joint protesting. But he got his feet under him, adjusted his grip, started moving again. "Talk to me," Laura said. "Stay focused." "About what?" "Anything." "Your son." "Tell me about Noah." "Smart. Keep his mind working. Keep him present." "He's 6, Ethan said between breaths. "First grade. Likes dinosaurs. Hates broccoli. What's his favorite?" "T-Rex, obviously." "Obviously." Ethan's foot found level ground. The trail was widening. That meant they were getting close to the lower section. Close to the parking area. "What happened with his mom?" Laura asked. "Divorce. 3 years ago." "Sorry." "Don't be. Better for everyone." "She see him?" "Every other weekend." "It works." They emerged from the thickest smoke. Visibility improved. Ethan could see shapes now, could identify trees. His truck was close. Had to be. "There," Laura said. He saw it. Silver metal through the haze. Never had something so ordinary looked so beautiful. He pushed the last 100 yards on momentum alone, his body using the last reserves it had. When he reached the truck, he was shaking. His hands could barely grip the door handle, but they'd made it. He went. Through the smoke, a shape appeared. The truck. Ethan had never been so grateful to see a vehicle in his life. He reached it, set Laura down as gently as he could against the passenger door. His legs gave out. He dropped to his knees, gasping. Laura grabbed his shoulder. "Keys." He fumbled them out, handed them over. She pulled herself up using the door handle, got it open, dragged herself into the seat. Ethan forced himself upright, stumbled around to the driver's side, climbed in. Engine started on the first turn. He threw it in reverse, backed out of the lot, swung onto the access road. Smoke poured across the windshield. He drove blind, hands locked on the wheel, trusting memory and luck. They burst out of the smoke half a mile down. Clear air hit like cold water. Ethan pulled over, killed the engine. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Laura laughed. Not hysterical, just a short, disbelieving sound. "You're insane," she said. Ethan leaned his head back against the seat. "Been told that before." Valley Ridge Medical Center was small, efficient, and used to handling outdoor injuries. They had Laura in a room within 20 minutes. Fracture confirmed. Surgery scheduled for the next morning. Ethan sat in the waiting area, covered in ash and sweat, watching the clock. 4:47 p.m. He'd missed pickup. He pulled out his phone. 3 missed calls from his sister. He called back. "Kim, I'm sorry. Noah's fine. I got him." "What happened?" "Long story. I'll explain later." "You okay?" "Yeah. You don't sound okay." "I will be. I just need to." He stopped. A nurse was walking toward him. "Mr. Cross?" He stood. "Is she all right?" "She's stable. She asked if you were still here." Ethan followed the nurse back. Laura was sitting up in bed, leg elevated and splinted. She looked exhausted but alert. "Hey," she said. "They told me you stayed. Wanted to make sure you were okay." She studied him. "Thank you." Ethan shrugged. "You would have done the same." "I don't know if I would have." A doctor appeared in the doorway. "Miss Bennett, we need to go over surgery prep. Can I have a minute?" The doctor nodded and stepped out. Laura looked at Ethan. "There's something you should know. The boundary markers for the Ridgefall Valley Development Project, they've been moved. Someone's trying to reclassify protected forest land as private property. I have photos. Measurements. Evidence." Ethan frowned. "That's illegal. Very. And 2 days ago, I got an email telling me to stop asking questions." She held his gaze. The fire didn't start by accident. The words hung between them. "You think someone, I don't know what I think, but I know what I found. And I know I was specifically in that location when it started." She paused. "I'm telling you because you saved my life, and because whatever this is, it's not over." Noah was already asleep when Ethan got home. Kim was on the couch, laptop open, working through emails. She looked up. "You look like hell. Feel like it too." Ethan dropped onto the other end of the couch. "Thanks for getting him. Always." She closed the laptop. "Want to talk about it?" he told her. The hike. Laura. The fire. The descent. Kim listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet. "You could have died," she said. "Didn't, though." "Ethan, I know." He rubbed his face. "I know." She stood up, grabbed her bag. "Get some sleep. I'll come by tomorrow, take Noah to school." After she left, Ethan sat in the dark living room. His body ached. His mind wouldn't settle. He thought about Laura's words. The fire didn't start by accident. His phone buzzed. "Unknown number," he answered. "Hello, Mr. Cross?" A male voice, professional. "This is Detective Warren Hicks with the Forest Service. I'm investigating the Ridgefall fire. I understand you pulled someone out today." "That's right. I'd like to speak with you." "And with Miss Bennett." "Tomorrow, if possible." "What's this about?" "Evidence suggests the fire was deliberately set. We're talking to everyone in the area." Ethan's grip tightened on the phone. "I'll be there." Laura was sitting up when Ethan arrived the next afternoon, leg in a cast, laptop balanced on the rolling table beside her bed. The room smelled like hospital disinfectant, and the flowers someone had sent, probably her firm, standard corporate gesture for an injured employee. "Detective came by," she said without preamble. "Me too." "What did you tell him?" "Everything. What I saw. How I found you. That you mentioned the survey work." He pulled up a chair, sat down. "What did you tell him?" "Same." Plus, I gave him copies of my files, photos of the moved markers, GPS coordinates, the email, and he said they'll investigate. But he also said development companies have lawyers. Good ones. This could take months. Laura's jaw tightened. By then, the area will be cleared, evidence gone. They'll have permits processed and equipment on site. Ethan leaned back. You think they'll bury it? I think they'll try. Laura closed the laptop, met his eyes. There's a public hearing next week. The company's presenting their final proposal to the County Planning Commission. If the markers are wrong, the whole project collapses. It's predicated on using that specific parcel of land, the valley access, the topography. But if I'm the only one saying something's off, and I'm laid up in a hospital bed with a fractured leg, unable to physically demonstrate the evidence, you're worried they'll push it through. I'm worried the evidence will disappear before anyone looks at it carefully enough. She opened the laptop again, turned it so he could see the screen. Satellite imagery, GPS overlays, colored pins marking locations. Look at this timeline. The original survey was done 6 years ago. Clean. Everything matched federal boundaries. Then, 3 years ago, the land changed hands. New survey done by a different firm, Pinnacle Land Services. Suddenly, the boundaries shift 30 feet east. That 30 feet is the difference between protected forest and developable land. Ethan studied the images. How much money are we talking about? The development is valued at $40 million. But if they can't use that specific valley access route, the whole project's impossible. The terrain on the other side is too steep. So that 30 feet, that's worth the entire project. Someone moved markers for $40 million. Welcome to land development. Laura's voice was bitter. I've seen it before. Not this blatant, but it happens. A few inches here, a reclassification there. Most people don't notice. Most surveyors don't go back and check historical data unless there's a reason. What was your reason? The maps didn't match the terrain. I was doing a routine verification survey, and something felt wrong. The angles were off. So I started digging. She pulled up another file, found the original survey data, compared it to the current markers. That's when I knew. Ethan was quiet for a moment, processing. So go public. News outlets, environmental groups. I'm a contractor. I signed an NDA as part of the survey agreement. If I go public without irrefutable proof, I lose my license. I lose my career. And Pinnacle Land Services will sue me into oblivion for violating confidentiality. She paused. But you didn't sign anything. I'm not a surveyor. No. But you're a witness. You were there. You saw the area before it burned. You saw where the fire started relative to the markers. And you're a volunteer with search and rescue, someone who serves the community, who saved a life. People trust that. Ethan understood what she was asking. You want me to speak at the hearing. I want you to tell the truth, that's all. Just say what you saw, what you know. Give the commission a reason to order their own independent survey before approving the project. He thought about Noah, about the life they'd built after the divorce. Quiet, stable, no drama, no complications. He'd worked hard for that stability, worked hard to create an environment where his son felt safe. Then he thought about smoke and fire and a woman who'd been ready to die rather than slow him down. I'll do it, he said. Laura's expression softened. Relief, maybe, or gratitude. Don't thank me yet. I'm not good at public speaking. You just need to tell the truth. You're already good at that. The week moved fast. Laura was released from the hospital on day 3, cast and crutches and a prescription for pain medication. Her apartment was on the 2nd floor. No elevator. Ethan helped her up the stairs. You don't have to keep doing this, she said. Doing what? Rescuing me. This is just stairs. She smiled despite herself. Inside, the apartment was small but organized. Maps covered one wall. Survey equipment lined shelves. A desk overflowed with files and printouts. "I'm going back to the site," Laura said. "You can't hike." "I don't need to hike. I need to photograph what's left. Document the burn patterns. Show where the fire started relative to the survey markers. That's a crime scene. Then I'll photograph from outside the tape." She lowered herself onto the couch. "This is what I do, Ethan. I measure things. I prove things." He didn't argue. "When?" "Tomorrow. After you drop Noah at school." They reached the burned section by mid-morning. The landscape looked alien. Blackened trunks, ash-covered ground, the smell of charred wood. Yellow tape marked the perimeter. A Forest Service vehicle was parked on the access road, but no one was actively patrolling. Laura stayed in the truck, camera in hand. Ethan walked the edge of the tape, checking sight lines. "There," Laura said, pointing. "That outcrop. I can see the old marker post from there." Ethan climbed onto the rocks. Laura handed him the camera. He took shots, the post, the surrounding area, the burn pattern on the ground. When he climbed back down, Laura was on her laptop. "Look at this." She turned the screen. "The fire started here, right where the new marker was placed. The old one is 30 feet away." A vehicle approached. Park ranger truck. The ranger who got out was young, name tag reading Martinez. "You folks need something?" "Just documenting," Laura said. "For the public hearing." Martinez glanced at the camera, then at Ethan. "You're the guy who made the rescue?" "Yeah, hell of a thing." Martinez looked back at the burned area. "They're saying it was arson. Accelerant pattern. Started in 3 places." Laura and Ethan exchanged glances. "3?" Laura asked. "Yeah. Coordinated. Someone wanted to make sure it spread." After he left, Laura was quiet. 3 ignition points, she said, finally. "That's professional." The public hearing was held in the county administration building, a plain brick structure with fluorescent lights and folding chairs. About 50 people showed up. Developers in suits sat in the front row. Environmental advocates clustered near the back. Laura sat to the side, cast propped on a chair. Ethan stood near the exit, watching. The developer's representative spoke first. Glossy presentation. Economic benefits. Job creation. Environmental safeguards. Then it was time for public comment. 3 people spoke. 2 supported the project. 1 raised concerns about traffic. Ethan waited. Finally, the moderator asked, "Anyone else?" He stood. Walked to the microphone. "My name is Ethan Cross. I'm a volunteer with Highland County Search and Rescue. Last week, I pulled a woman off that mountain during the fire. Laura Bennett. She's here tonight." Eyes turned toward Laura. Laura was surveying the area because she'd found irregularities in the boundary markers. She documented evidence that the markers had been moved to reclassify protected land. Then someone set a fire. A deliberate fire. 3 ignition points. Coordinated. Murmurs rippled through the room. "I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an investigator. But I know what I saw. And I know Laura was targeted because she found something that threatened this project." He looked at the developers. "If the boundaries are legitimate, then a new survey will prove it. If they're not," he paused, "then we need to know before any more land gets cleared." He stepped away from the microphone. The moderator looked flustered. "Thank you. We'll take that under advisement." That night, Ethan's phone rang at 2 a.m. He grabbed it, groggy. "Ethan, it's Laura. Someone just tried to break into my apartment." He was out of bed before she finished. "Are you okay?" "I'm okay. I called the cops. They're here." But her voice wavered. "Can you come?" "On my way." He woke Kim, asked her to stay with Noah. Then he drove across town. 3 police cars sat outside Laura's building. Officers were taking statements. One recognized Ethan from the hearing. "She's upstairs," the officer said. Laura was standing in her doorway, wrapped in a jacket. They didn't get in, but they tried. Crowbar marks on the lock. You can't stay here, Ethan said. I know. Grab what you need. You're coming with me. Laura sat on Ethan's couch, cast propped up, mug of tea cooling in her hands. Noah was asleep upstairs. Kim had gone home. The house was quiet except for the refrigerator hum. This is insane, Laura said. You barely know me. I know enough. You have a kid, Laura. He sat down across from her. Someone tried to burn you alive. Then they tried to break into your apartment. You're not going back there until this is resolved. She was quiet. What if it doesn't get resolved? Then we deal with that too. Rain started outside, soft at first, then heavier. Thank you, Laura said finally. Ethan nodded. Get some sleep. We'll figure out the rest tomorrow. 2 days later, the county announced an independent survey of the Ridgefall Valley area. The development project was put on hold. Detective Hicks called Ethan that afternoon. We arrested someone this morning, guy who worked for the construction company, had accelerant residue on his boots, burner phone with coordinates matching the ignition points. He talk? Lawyered up. But we've got enough to build a case. What about the break-in? Different guy, same company. They're cooperating now. Ethan felt tension ease. So, it's over? The immediate threat? Yeah. The legal battle? That's just starting. Laura stayed for another week. Her apartment's lock was replaced, security system installed. But she didn't rush back. She and Noah got along. He liked her maps. She liked his questions. One evening, after Noah was in bed, Ethan and Laura sat on the back porch. The air was cool. Stars were visible through breaks in the clouds. I'm going back to work next week, Laura said. Yeah? New project? Different county. Fresh start. That's good. She looked at him. Come with me. Ethan blinked. Not permanently. Just for a weekend. There's a lake. Good hiking. I want to show you something that isn't burning. He smiled. I'll think about it. Think fast. The story didn't end with arrests or hearings. It ended with the slow process of rebuilding Laura's leg, her sense of safety, the forest itself. Ethan went back to his volunteer shifts. Noah went back to school. Life returned to its familiar patterns, but something had shifted. One man hadn't left a woman on a mountain, and didn't leave the truth buried either. Sometimes that's enough. Not a perfect ending, not a clean one, just real, and that counted for something.